Okay, typically in a water damage situation, especially in a room like this, you'll have saturated carpet. This is the extractor that we use. It's a Hydro Extreme extractor. Basically what it is, it's a weighted extracting machine. So you've got the weight of the machine plus the weight of me standing on it. So that is going to push down on the carpet and the carpet pad and extract the maximum amount of water from that. You can change the speed on this to go faster or slower depending on the amount of water in the room. Then when you get to the end of your room, all we'll do is flip it into reverse and go back the other way. You're going to want to make several different passes just to make sure you get the maximum amount of water out. And then we'd move it over. Start all over. So as you can see, it may take, up to 30 minutes, depending on the size of the room. Of course, we'd have all the furniture moved out of the way, go wall to wall as we're extracting the water. Once you get all of the water out, depending on whether or not the carpet is delaminated, which means the backing of the carpet when it gets wet gets compromised, that glue that holds the backing to the actual carpet fibers. If that backing peels off, that carpet is now non-salvageable, which means you throw it away basically. You need to remove it from the house. You would cut the carpet, if it's delaminated, into manageable sections, roll it up, carry it out of the house, do the same thing with the carpet pad. Should you have water on a hard surface floor like ceramic tile, hardwood, any kind of laminate, pergo, anything of that nature, we'll use a wand. This one actually has a rubberized head on it to protect the floor. In the case of tile or hardwoods, where those floors might be able to be salvaged, you certainly don't want to cause secondary damage by scratching it while you're trying to get the water off of it. So you just like it looks, you'd be extracting the water this way. We also have a wand that you can use on carpet if it's not to the point where you need to use the weighted extractor. Okay, first thing you're going to want to do in a water damage is determine the source. In this particular house, it was the supply line to the kitchen sink, which is what we're looking at right here. You're always going to have two. One is the hot water supply, one is the cold water supply. Determine whichever one is leaking. It'll usually be pretty apparent. You'll be seeing the water come out of it. You come in here, reach in, grab that knob, turn it clockwise. That will seal that valve and prevent the further intrusion of water into the structure. Okay, what we're going to do here is test for the moisture level for these cabinets. Whenever you have a cabinet situation, you're always going to want to make sure what the situation is underneath those. If there's standing water underneath the cabinets, you'll need to take action to get that water out of there first, and then you can progress to drying. See, like this is detecting high levels of moisture. Whenever you hear that beeping sound, this meter will actually tell you what the percentage is. And you're going to test all the way around the cabinets. Okay, since we detected moisture in these cabinets, what we're going to use is what's called an eject-to-dry system. This is the motor for it. You attach the hose, then you attach this adapter right here, and you can see all the yellow hoses coming off of this. Basically, each one of those has a point that we're going to put into holes that we drill into the kick plate of the cabinets, just so that you can see. Let me bring you one so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Just a tiny little pin, basically, that's going to go into those holes, and then they've got these wide edges. You lock it in place, it stays there. The air that comes out of that motor is now being injected, hence the name, directly underneath those cabinets, which is one of your main points of concern, like I mentioned earlier. As I mentioned, to use the injector dry system, you're obviously going to have holes that you drill in the kick plate, so that's what we're going to do now. One thing you're always going to want to think about is as you're using a system like this, you're also going to have to allow access for the air to escape from underneath that cavity. So as you're forcing air in, air is being able to escape, so you're getting a circulation. Now, obviously, these cabinets have items in them. Should we have to do this in a situation, we will obviously inventory everything that's in the cabinets, label them which cabinet they came out of, pack them up, store them in an adjacent room or off-site if necessary. That is not a common occurrence. That's usually when the entire home has been affected and there is not a dry area in the house to store the items. Okay, here's the injector dry system set up. Obviously you can see the yellow holes have now been placed into the holes that were drilled in the kick plate for those cabinets. That is blowing air directly into the cavity underneath those cabinets. That's going to allow for maximum drying capability. We like to use those on all kinds of cabinets. We try to save cabinets as much as possible. Obviously that causes less inconvenience for a homeowner. Okay, here is after we've gotten all the equipment set up. This is actually where the drying process starts for areas like this if you've got walls that have water damage on them. There actually is a science to this. Basically the fans that you see, we've got several different types here. The fans are what is going to cause that water or moisture to evaporate. This is a dehumidifier. That will pull that moisture out of the air. So you've got evaporation from the fans and dehumidification from the dehumidifiers. That way you are pulling moisture out of the house. It runs out of this drain line into a sink. It is gone from the structure. That is how we dry structures out. The fans that we use, as well as the dehumidifier, they are all high efficiency, low electrical draw pieces of equipment. Before these new models came out, you were severely limited in the amount of equipment that you could place in a home. These new models all run with very low draw, which allows us to put more equipment in the home without compromising the electrical system. That way you don't set all of your equipment up, and the first time the dehumidifier cycles, 30 minutes after you're out of the house, it throws a breaker, and now that first 24-hour period, you've got no equipment running. Therefore, no drying is taking place. So we have made it a point to buy the latest and greatest when it comes to equipment so that we can allow the most efficient drying process possible. Okay, we've got all of the equipment turned on now. As you can tell, it can get relatively noisy in a home during a drying process. Drying process typically takes anywhere from 3 to 5 days, depending on the amount of saturation in the home. 1 to 2 areas, as long as it's sat in only a couple of hours, I would expect to get everything dry, including cabinets and flooring like we talked about earlier, within 3 days. Drying situations are evaluated on a 24-hour period. Therefore, you'll notice that we have not pulled any of the baseboards in this room. I typically try not to pull baseboards in the first 24 hours unless there is visible water lines above the baseboard. However, tomorrow, once 24 hours have passed, if I'm still picking up high levels of moisture above those baseboard lines, we may have to get a little bit more aggressive, take some baseboards off, perhaps even perforate those wall cavities and inject air into those as well in order to get the structure dry within that 3-day time period.